Hi there, I'm Ken Cook, and I'm having another episode. I'm really excited about today's episode because I'm talking to a friend, a mentor, inspiration, and a colleague in advocacy. Something I really admire about my guest is that she and her family are, to me, truly not just talking the talk, but running the walk. I mean, they're just in there for all the right reasons in trying to make change in the personal care industry, the cleaning industry, the marketplace, the everyday life of consumers. They're coming with products that make it safer, make it better. We have Lisa Bronner on the show. Lisa is part of the famous Bronner family. I think I'd be hard pressed to find anyone who's not familiar with Dr. Bronner's. I've had it in my home, all of my homes, pretty much, I think, since college, as long as I can remember. We still use them every day. They call themselves a soap company, but they're a lot more than that. Their scope is advocacy, personal care products, campaigning for regenerative organic farming, on and on. We're talking about a company that is committed to being ethical, thoughtful, and forward thinking. Dr. Bronner's operates with a real sense of stewardship, not only for the people they work with and their communities, but they're also industry leaders on the front lines of regenerative organic agriculture, for example, non GMO products, another huge effort that they were involved in, reducing their carbon footprint through constant improvement in their operations. So here at EWG, we are very familiar with Dr. Bronner's. All of their skincare products are rated safe in EWG's Skin Deep database, and many are EWG verified. Lisa is the author of a really wonderful book, enjoyable to read, down to earth. It's like sitting down and having coffee with her, which I've done. And I got to tell you, never pass up that opportunity if you get it. The book is called Soap and Soul, a practical guide to minding your home, your body, and your spirit with Dr. Bronner's magic soaps. And they're magic for sure. I can't recommend it highly enough. If you want a guide on the chemistry of cleaning your home, a crash course on how to read an ingredient label, or if you just want to know why behind the safer choices we can make at home, this book is a must read. It's also full of soul and a real reminder that our homes and our families are what really matter. You can also find out more about her outstanding writing on her blog, Going Green with Lisa Bronner, which is over at lisabronner.com. So, Lisa, I am delighted I get to spend some time with you today. We're going to be talking about soap. We're going to be talking about advocacy. We're going to be talking about your family's story and legacy. I'm just beyond excited to have this opportunity to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, Ken. It's a joy to be here. I feel like we're old friends and we've crossed paths so many times that our conversation could go anywhere today, but I'm looking forward to joining you here.
That's exactly right. We've been engaged together with your product line, a lot of which is EWG Verified. And we've also been engaged in advocacy with you, everything from organic food to GMO labeling, chemical issues, and so forth. Your company's been a leader in advocacy, too. And I want to get into all of that. But first, tell us a little bit about the history of the Bronner family. I've started reading the label in college. I think in another couple of years, I should pretty much finish it up. But tell us about the amazing Dr. Bronner and how the family's stewardship has evolved.
Absolutely. And you really have to have a multimedia approach to getting the story, because once you finish reading the peppermint bottle, you're going to have to go on to the lavender and almond, because they all have different parts of his writing, and which I think was part of his brilliance. But Dr. Bronner, after whom the company is named and who was the founder of the company, was my grandfather. But he himself was the third generation soap maker in his family, and his family's soap making dates from 1858 in Laupheim, Germany, which is in southern Germany, west of Munich, where his grandfather first was licensed by the Soap Making Guild to make soap. and he made it in the basement of his house where he raised his 11 children above. And his children knew the craft, but Laupheim didn't need more soap makers. So when they were of age, they moved west to Heilbronn, which is a larger city. Three of the sons there, my great grandfather being one of them, founded a very successful soap making operation called Mataform. And they had three facilities there. They distributed soap across Germany. My grandfather was raised there, and he himself went through the apprenticeship program and became a master soap maker as well. However, the family was Jewish. And so in the tumult of the 30s, the property was confiscated. The family either fled Germany or were arrested. My grandfather and his sisters all fled, and their parents did not. And they both perished in concentration camps. So my grandfather came over to the United States, where he worked just as a consultant for a number of years before he started the company that became Dr. Bronner's in 1948. So that's when we date our founding of this company, 1948. He ran it by power of personality and passion, perseverance, very much in his own way. Really was gung-ho all the way until he was slowed down by Parkinson's in the 90s. My dad took over, but unfortunately, my dad died in 1998, shortly after my grandfather. And so then it came into my generation with my brothers, David, first off, who is our cosmic engagement officer, CEO, and my brother Mike. My mom is still CFO. My husband, Michael Milam, is chief operating officer. And I am not on the executive council. I didn't want to do that. I'm a teacher by training. I love engaging with people. I love engaging, helping people take their next step forward. So I wanted to be more on the outreach of the company. So I work in education, advocacy, helping people to take their next step forward. So that's the Bronner family in a nutshell.
Yeah. And I think in some ways online with your blog and other media, I do think of you as sort of the voice of Dr. Bronner's. I know everyone's involved. I'm glad you picked the role you've picked because you're so damn good at it. And I've interviewed you before, but not on this podcast, about Soap and Soul, your wonderful book. And I recommend it to everybody. It's just a great read. You know, in the health and wellness space, we can take ourselves just a little bit seriously. Do you think just maybe a little bit pious, maybe a little bit finger pointy and preachy, just a little, but there's not a trace of it in Soap and Soul. And I think for anyone who's interested in getting into this space of health and wellness and being aware of what's around you in your everyday life, Soap and Soul is just about the best spiritual and emotional as well as informational guide out there. How'd you sit down and take the time to write it is my first question, because I need to do that someday.
Right. Well, let me tell you, you will never have the time to write a book. That's where you have to start from. It's not like I had a space in my life where I was like, oh, look, I've got time to write a book. I knew I was going to have to jump in before I was ready. I sat down. What are the essentials? What can I not drop? You know, raising my three children, guiding them through their growing up lives. That one didn't go anywhere. Honestly, the shutdown of 2020 actually helped me, partially because it wasn't going anywhere and a lot of things were canceled. But it also helped me because I wanted to write a book from my home. During that time, I was more planted in my home. That gave me exactly the rooting I wanted to write the book, because that's where I wanted to speak to people. I wanted to speak to people when they were off, not when they were out in their professional realm with their persona and their professional priorities. That's great. But I wanted to speak to them in their off hours. What are you doing when you're at home in your daily lives, when you're, taking off your public persona? I wanted to speak to people there.
It's a terrific practical guide. If you can be practical about the spirit, and I think one can be, that's a big part of it. And say a little bit more about reaching people when they're not in their professional or work or official life, when they maybe have their guard down and it's time to talk about the things that maybe are even more important than your professional life, dare I say, or at least as important.
Right. Well, one practice I did before I started writing was defining my audience. I literally wrote a kind of character reviews of my audience and who I wanted to speak to. I gave them names. I gave them little backgrounds, where they were coming from, what their priorities were.
Introduce us to a few of them.
Okay, all right. I had my friend Heather, who wanted to know why. She's not in the green space, shall we say.
Mhm.
As you were saying, we often have a lingo, a vocabulary that we use in the eco
Yeah.
space. She doesn't speak that. I wanted to be able to reach her, to reach somebody who was saying, why should I bother? Why should I read ingredients? Why can't I just go buy the price or the one that smells good or whatever of the product? So that was Heather, the questioner. There was Amanda, who was the busy mom who doesn't have time to do the research, but really wants to make the right choices and the healthiest choices. But she is busy and she's very budget conscious. So I wanted to be able to speak to her to make things actionable, simple enough, you could just take it and go. I also wanted to speak to the budget idea of, is, going organic more expensive, or how can you make sure it's not? Because certainly it can be a very expensive endeavor. So I wanted to speak to her. I wanted to speak to the professional that perhaps even in the green space already, but wanting to go deeper, really understanding maybe the regulations behind the principles that I'm talking
Mhm.
about. Why is this necessary? What's the next step? Even perhaps somebody who's involved in advocacy, ready to take the next step forward. So I wanted
Mhm.
to speak to all of these people and help them wherever they were starting from to move forward. And there's no judgment, no shame in where you are. You have to start there and take the next step forward. So that's what I was trying to do with my book.
You did it beautifully, in my opinion. I just think it's a wonderful book for all of those audiences and more. It brings up a question that I've been wrestling with lately. How do you go about when it's not a Dr. Bronner's product where you know everything about it or can read for hours on the label and get a sense of all that's gone into the integrity of the sourcing, the care with the manufacturing, the long commitment to organic, and now a deeper commitment to regenerative organic, which is organic on steroids, except steroids aren't allowed. It's organic with deeper intention to worry about things that the organic standard right now doesn't necessarily specify, goes beyond organic. How should consumers just generally, or how do you just generally develop a sense of trust in a company or a brand?
Mm-hmm.
What do you look for, and how do you grant authority?
Absolutely. And that this is where things become really gray and murky for a consumer, because what is marketing, what is some sort of persuasion, and what's actual fact. I am a consumer as well as an educator here. Dr. Bronner's makes a few products, a number of products, but there are quite a few that we don't. And we get asked about them all the time. Sunscreen, deodorant,
Yeah.
automatic dishwasher detergent. We don't make those. We're working on it. But these are things that I too have to purchase. And then, as you said, even bigger, not just products that come out of a bottle, but I bought a vacuum cleaner recently. I bought a car. My training from where I'm coming from in this realm of personal care and house cleaning products, I 100% rely on independent research. I am completely comfortable myself looking at research studies. I live on the NCBI website and Wiley Library and all of these. I like reading actual research articles. I realize that's not necessarily a pastime other people enjoy. And so it very much helps to for me to look at third-party independent research organizations. Obviously, EWG is my top go-to when I'm looking at personal care,
Oh.
house cleaning, sunscreen. I've even bought a water filter system and other ones that are not industry funded, that are independent, that are nonprofits, because they are willing to say, they're willing to say the truth. I hate to say you can't trust a manufacturer about their own product, because we are a manufacturer and I do want you to trust
Yeah.
us. But I also want to hear what their reputation is amongst people who don't have any stake in the game. Campaign for Safe Cosmetics is another organization
Mhm.
that I've leaned into myself. So, yeah, I like knowing what others are saying about products or services before I jump in with my own resources.
Yeah, people sometimes make fun of the notion of doing your own research. I don't think we should ever discourage people from doing their own research. It's just I think, a question of getting better and better at the sources that you consult as you're conducting your research. But why wouldn't we want people to be lifelong learners about every aspect of their life?
Absolutely.
I have to say, in the case of Dr. Bronner's, one of the things I've been very impressed with, it's controversial in some quarters, I think, is the regenerative organic commitment that you have made. The criticism that comes sometimes from the organic community is that, well, doesn't that suggest that organic's not enough? When a company's willing to say we're not there yet and we're getting there and here's where we're headed and here's what we're trying to fix in our ingredients or our manufacturing process or how we relate to consumers, whatever it might be, there's something about that very human quality of not being infallible that draws me to companies. How does that strike you?
Absolutely. I mean, honesty, if any of us are honest with ourselves, we know we don't have it figured out. And so if anybody ever says we've got it all figured out, I mean, red flag right there. Who has it all figured out? Because there is always a journey. It is always a journey. And when you achieve one, mountaintop, it just gives you a vantage point to see the next one. And then you go on fighting it and go through another trough and battle the weeds and all of that. And then you get to another perspective where you can see again the journey of Dr. Bronner's, which actually is really well laid out in my colleague's book, Honor Thy Label, about our supply chain development. It talks about a lot of dead ends and backtracks that we had to do in our supply chain, and we still are. As you might imagine, the search for ethical and sustainable and now regenerative organic certified palm oil, it was tough. But
Yeah.
you know what it came down to? It came down to personal relationships. And a lot of the problems that we ran into were when personal trust was betrayed. Somebody in whom
Uh-huh.
our team had placed trust, proved themselves untrustworthy, and we had to back up from that relationship. But at the same time, our successes have come from personal relationship as well. I know this is not something every company could do, but we have teams on the ground forming relationships with local individuals and communities, finding a way forward that works for everybody, both the local culture as well as the needs of our company. And so personal relationship really made a difference there. So Dr. Bronner's own journey as a company, like through our certification journey, we've got a lot. I have to sit down sometimes and have to list them all out. And I'm always afraid I'm going to forget one. But the first one was organic, and it was organic before there was a organic certification for personal
Yeah.
care products. David certified under the food standard, which is its own journey. Even before we were done with that, even before we had the certification, we knew it wasn't enough because organic doesn't address labor. It doesn't address the human component. So we already were eyeing fair trade. And so as soon as we were freed up with our time and resources, we started chasing down fair trade, which involved having to form our own companies because there weren't sources of fair trade, coconut oil, palm oil, mint oil in the volume we needed. So that led us in a journey of vertically integrating our supply chain. Even before we were done with that, we knew that wasn't enough because it doesn't address animal welfare at all. Neither of those do. And also organic, we realized was more about not doing harm, which was fine, but there was a lot of harm that had been done. And we had to look into systems that repaired, regenerated the harm that was done, which is where the conversation that eventually became the Regenerative Organic Alliance and the Regenerative Organic Certification came from. It looks at soil health, rebuilding it, restoring it, looking at the cycle of people, animal welfare, the land itself, in a very complex one. But it's new, it's hard to get,
Yeah.
and it's not out there very much. So if you decide I'm only buying regenerative organic certified products, you're not going to find very many yet.
Yeah.
So it's growing. It's growing. So organic is still good. Fair trade is still good. I would say there's a new gold standard.
Yeah. Let's grow in that direction. No surprise that one of the companies that has partnered with you on regenerative organic is Patagonia. And they were one of the first to publish a study on microfibers coming
Yes.
off of their recycled products,
Yes.
their fleece and so forth. I remember being stunned that they went to the trouble to measure the microfibers that came off from ordinary washing of their own products and publicized it and said, this is a problem. They built this whole reputation for using recycled materials and fabric made from, all kinds of plastics and other things. But then they saw an error in it or a flaw in it and called attention to it. And they were washing their own garments.
Because you think, well, maybe this would be a study they would want to bury.
Right. A really impressive and difficult challenge was replacing the PFAS types of chemicals in their garments. I talked to someone many years ago at Patagonia. The person from Patagonia said that they wanted to experiment with other types of water and stain repellent technology, but they were too small to get the mills in China that made their fabrics to slow down enough to do a couple of runs for them. It was just something that didn't make economic sense for the mills that were operating at such a high level. And I remember thinking, wow, this is really a dimension of industrial change that I hadn't occurred to me, that there's so much concentration and such scale that you can't experiment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is the difficulty. I mean, we are small beans as far as the whole realm of manufacturing of consumer products goes. So that is a challenge. But as you were saying, with Patagonia's journey with plastic and microplastics in the water supply, I mean, that's certainly transparency right there. You know that it's a priority for them. I will say that's been similar with Dr. Bronner's, because there have been things that we've done that we were really proud of and eventually realized they're not enough, like our own plastic journey. Shortly after 2000, David spearheaded having our plastic bottles be 100% post-consumer recycled. And we were the first CPG company to have a 100% post-consumer recycled plastic bottle, that it actually had gone through the recycling system, and we had purchased it back, and it had to be the clarity and the integrity that we needed. That wasn't easy to do. We were really proud of that. 100% PCR. That's great. But it's still plastic, and it's still not biodegradable. Being on the front lines of customers' questions over the years, I mean, that one has not gone away. It's still plastic. Why can't you do glass? Why can't you do aluminum? And part of it is that the research wasn't there yet. We wanted a real solution. We didn't want to take another step that didn't actually solve the problem. And so we looked into glass. Glass is not feasible. For one thing, it's so heavy that the fossil fuels that needed to move that would be totally nullify any savings. Plus the fact that most people use our products when they're wet and naked, and glass just breaks too easily. And most things don't get recycled. Very little of our packaging gets recycled. So the honest question is, what is the least impactful for the environment for a product package that just gets thrown out there? And glass is not going to biodegrade either. It is very recyclable, but that's just not the reality of how consumers act. And so after looking at glass, aluminum, same thing. We did life cycle analyses with a third-party researcher, and we ended up on paper. We went to paper. And so we launched a year and a half ago our paper refill carton. Even that was an 82. We were honest. It's 82% reduction in plastic. It still has a plastic cap, and it still has a little bit of plastic in the lining. We have now moved that up to 86%. So we're still working on that ourselves. But even this is not where we want to be, because even that is going to end up, it's a linear path straight from the consumer to some sort of disposal. And our goal is circular. And so our aim at the moment is refill stations, partnering with retailers to set up stations that consumers can go and refill their package. The retailer will have the ability to ship larger bulk empties back to us that we can refill and send to them. And that is the true aim that we are at right now, is going for a circular packaging system. And so we have this journey on our website that you can see where we are with that. Darcy Schreiber-Knowles, our head of our operation sustainability initiative, she has been very forthright with where we are and the struggles and what we've overcome, which is great, and what we're still looking to conquer.
I guess that's what I'm getting at, is when a company is willing to share the things that didn't work yet or that aren't there yet, that just gives me more confidence in buying from them, and actually a motivation to buy from them, that they're going to try and do something exceptional. Let's hope that that will start to feed through the marketplace, and we'll have containers that are of the quality of yours. Although I expect you're spending more money for all of that effort, probably at least at the beginning, than you'd have to spend if you got just regular old plastic.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, yes, as you said, the initial cost is certainly higher, but if you look at the whole long-term cost of the environment and cleaning up our world when we trash it, certainly
Yeah.
it pays off. But even this journey with packaging, it's all about human relationship. We have had our packaging broker for 30 years that we have worked with, and he has been on this journey with us as well to find these resources, to get packaging producers to make these resources. It's all a journey that we're on together, and we just have to listen to what are the problems, what are the hurdles, be innovative about solving them. I think Dr. Bronner's is a perfect size for all of these crazy ideas because, in the scheme of manufacturing and business, we are not a huge company. I think we're considered medium sized, but so we're big enough to do things, but small enough to be nimble to back up if something's not working. So what's next for us? Well, our advocacy is ongoing. You said that we're not just a soap company. I so often get a little stumped by the question of what kind of company is Dr. Bronner's, because my grandfather didn't really start it as a soap company. He started it as a missional company. The label was his focus. He wanted to spread his message of world peace and unity across divides to all people. What vehicle did he have to do that? He had a soap bottle because that's what he knew
Yeah.
how to do, was make soap. So he had a literal soapbox to stand on.
There you go.
There you go.
I knew we were going to get there. Yeah.
Yeah. So ever since we've had that sort of thing. So we have these sister companies in Ghana and Sri Lanka, Samoa, Pavitramet in northern India. And we're very involved in the communities there and listening to what their needs are. One of the biggest ones that we are active in, because it is a profound need in these areas, is period poverty and providing menstrual health access for women and girls who are held back very much by the period poverty. And so we have programs in Ghana and India in particular that are education, as well as providing reusable supplies for these girls and women so that they don't have to step out of the educational pathways or the professional pathways because of this. So that's one very forward area that I'm passionate about. Ghana is a very busy place for us. We have Serenda Palm is our operation there. It is in Asum, Ghana, which is not a big city. And it is really a testing ground for regenerative organic agriculture. We have built up the palm oil supply there, working with farmers, smallholder family farms, to walk them through certification, the education involved in that, the paperwork involved in that, the inspections, and so on. But even more so is we have acreage set aside that are test grounds for a concept called dynamic agroforestry. One of the biggest problems in agriculture is monocropping, which is growing crops in isolation. Dynamic agroforestry is the counter to that, which is growing like nature, which is in diversity. It's not like throw it all out there and let it, figure itself out. It's very planned. It's very intentional. It takes a lot of thought and effort, but the output is tremendous for the earth, for the soil, but also for the farmers. It gives them so much more resilience, crop stability, year-round income, because they've got this diversity of harvest. So if one crop doesn't do well, they don't have to wait till the next year. They've got another one coming. It's just brilliant. I absolutely love the concept. So a lot of our efforts are going into what we're doing there in Ghana with this demonstration ground where we're bringing in people who can learn the technique. This is what we hope to do as Dr. Bronner's. We ourselves are not going to change the world, but we can show people how to do it. And as I said, we're nimble enough to try these things, to show how it works. We are a profitable company, and yet we're still using sustainable and ethical palm oil and other crops that have been deemed impossible. And
Yeah.
we're showing how it can be done, being an example to other organizations, taking away the excuse of, oh, we can't do it any better. No, you can. This is how.
Yeah. And give it a go. And make mistakes along the way inevitably, but stay true to your mission. So what does all one mean?
Yeah.
Can you explain all one? It's on every single product, and I know it's the guiding philosophy, but say a little bit about it.
Yes. All one was my grandfather's mantra. If you had to condense all of his words, his many, many words, down into one phrase, it would be all one. You might imagine that growing up, having Dr. Bronner as a grandfather was an experience. And he was my only living grandparent. And so the only like person occupying this category of grandparent in my mind was Dr. Bronner. And he was always speaking from the mountaintop. He was always very mission driven. And so, as you might imagine, for a young girl, that was very confusing. It was very hard to make conversation because, of course, I was very self centered and I wasn't thinking about the world peace and man's place in the universe. And so he was bewildering. But the one thing I remember is that every time he would call, and he called quite often, he was so passionate that I think things just overflowed, and he had a number of us that he would call. My household, my Uncle Ralph's household in Milwaukee was another one with whatever idea had to come out. And it could be something that he wanted us to write down. Most people don't realize my grandfather was blind from about 1970 on.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. So I never knew him when he could see. And my dad has many stories of his failing eyesight. Not that
Wow.
it stopped him from, driving and doing other things like that. But but he was fully blind by like 1970. But he never learned to type and he never learned Braille. So every word that he had came out verbally and was written down by somebody else. And so sometimes if it was not an hour that he had somebody on staff on hand, he would call one of us, write this down or read me this line. I think I have a better way to say it. And he had it all in his head. Just amazing.
Wow.
Every word, every exclamation point, every dash, they were all in there. So even at these young ages, when my grandfather would call with this, passion and energy, every conversation ended with the phrase, all one. And we would have to say it. And if we did not say it with enough fervor, we'd have to say it again. All one. And because this was the concept it all came down to, that we are all one. Our humanity across these divisions that we have put up, or that, are on the surface apparent, our racial divisions, our ethnic divisions, national divisions, religious, political, philosophical, that we are all one. We're all brothers and sisters on this crazy spaceship Earth hurtling through the solar system. And it was a profound thing for him to say, because remember where he'd come from.
Yes, I was just thinking of that, losing his both parents, right?
Both parents in the concentration camps, his homeland destroyed, his family's legacy was decimated. And then his wife here, he married another German immigrant who happened to be Catholic here in the States. She had a very tragic story as well and ended up being institutionalized in the early 40s. She died in that institution. He would only refer very briefly to her being, 67 pounds and had a broken jaw when she died. So, I mean,
Oh my
horrible.
Yeah.
Right at the same time as his parents were arrested and perishing in Germany. So he would have had every reason to be bitter, to be resigned, to be resentful.
Focused on yourself?
Exactly. He's an immigrant in the United States, which is a very difficult thing. He's Jewish, he's German in the 40s, and he had nothing. He told stories about sleeping on the rooftop of the YMCA with the pigeons. But all of this takes away every excuse any of us could have of saying my life has been too hard. I mean, so the all one philosophy came out of that, which is why you have quotations in his writing from every resource he could get his hands on. Anyone he felt was pursuing excellence, was pursuing the betterment of mankind. And it wasn't all about expending yourself in service to others, because he had this concept called the moral ABC, which is like the basic elementary principles that cross divides. You can find them in every different theory, philosophy, religion. The first one is to take care of yourself. If I don't take care of myself, what am I? Nothing. And the second one is, but if I only take care of myself, Who am I? I'm no one. So you have to do both. You have to take care of yourself or else you're useless, but you also have to take care of each other. And so that's where all one comes down to. You'll see it in our logo that is on the bottle. You'll see it at our headquarters. I mean, if you had to boil it down to one little thing, is this for the betterment of all people of the world, every inhabitant that lives here.
Wow. What an inspirational, amazing story. And I just, I admire the family even more now, which I wasn't sure was possible for how you've carried this wonderful tradition forward. It's lofty, it's elevated, and it reads true. And I'm so grateful to have had some time to visit with you about it. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
I'm always hesitant to leave people with the impression, as you've covered previously, that we have it all figured out and it's all perfect. We are a family and we all come from some family or another. And you might imagine that there have been bumps along the way. My brothers
Sure.
and I basically grew up at the same time as we were trying to figure out how to run this company. And it was going through some rocky times because my grandfather was not big on succession planning and such. So when he died, it was bumpy. And then my dad died a year later. And we were just growing up. I mean, David
Yeah.
started, he was 24. I've got a 21-year-old. He's a great kid, but
Not ready to run a company. Yeah.
great kid, but
Yeah.
yeah. And so, there was a lot of, figuring out the sibling dynamic, the brother dynamic, at the same time as the company. A lot of people have shown us grace because they've come in to advise, to guide, but it's all about, resilience, keeping going, apologizing, finding a better way. And we each found our spot. And that's been the key thing. We each found our spot. David is really super passionate, super visionary, works on the big macro level, changes systemic problems, tackles huge concepts, from drug policy reform to agriculture, the way the world does agriculture. I mean, massive topics.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and that's where he's at. He's good at it. He's got a passion for it, a vision for it. I'm trying to help people in their daily lives make their daily decisions. And, what can I do to help the world? Well, we can each work on what we have in front of us.
I have to say, in every interaction I've had with the family, it's next level consistently. The commitment of the company and the spirit each of you bring to the challenges we face. I'm so proud that Dr. Bronner's is part of the EWG Verified program, the amazing products that are in the program. And I'm also proud that we've fought side by side on any number of advocacy issues. So thank you for joining Lisa Bronner. And I'll just have to end by saying, all one, pal.
All one.
All one.
There you go.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Ken. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you to Lisa Bronner for joining us today. And thank you out there for listening. If you'd like to learn more, be sure to check out our show notes for additional links and a deeper dive into today's topics. Make sure to follow our show on Instagram at Ken Cook's Podcast. And if you're interested in learning more about EWG, head over to ewg.org or go to the EWG Instagram page at Environmental Working Group. This episode, if it resonated with you, you think someone you know might benefit from it, send it along. The best way to make positive change is to start as a community with your community. Today's episode was produced by the extraordinary Beth Rowe and Mary Kelly. Our show's theme music is by Moby. Thank you very much, Moby. And thanks all of you again for listening.